Oh, hold on. Hold on. It didn't pick my live camera up. Oh, man. I don't think I can fix it without turning this thing off. So we're going to go with the camera on my Mac. Sorry about that. I would plug in my mic in and then I had to turn it off and plug it back in. I messed it up. It's fine. You'll be fine. Hopefully the quality is not super terrible. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. It was a bit of a rush for me today. I got stuff to do after this. So I was trying to put on makeup and then quality's great. Okay. I think it's in the playback when it goes back into onto my YouTube page, the quality just tanks. Anyway, at least we got mics. Yeah, so I was teaching class this morning and coming back today, and I just ran out of time. And then I was late. But we're only a couple minutes behind. Oh. You can't see, but they're fighting. They're fighting for no reason. For no reason at all. Just because one wants to sit on the poof and the other one is currently on the poof. Nice kitties, please. Sillies. Okay, let's see who's here, and then we're gonna get right into it. If there's anything you want to talk about or practice today, please. He just yells. Please let me know in the chat. I'm also gonna go live on TikTok. For whatever reason, I have a video doing well right now, which is rare for me on TikTok. So I'm just going to press go there. Let's see who's here. Carlo is here. Pierre is here. Hello. Sveta is here. I saw your video from last week's combo, Sveta. Very nice work. Good work. Jody's here and it's her birthday. So happy birthday in North Carolina. Livia's here. Amira's here. Danny's here. Beardless Coconut. That's a fun name. Who else we got? I'm scrolling. Sao Pao Cat is back. Welcome back. Yova's here. Hi, Yova. Jessica's here. I'm going down the list. Nissa's here. I'm sure there'll be more. If I missed you, please let me know. Hello, everyone on TikTok. I am also live on YouTube. Yay, here we are. Okay, so there's a couple things I want to practice today. And George is here. Hi, George. I'm going to plug my mic onto my jacket. Is that okay? Can you hear me? I'm sure it's fine. Maybe if we move it up a bit. Maybe it's not right at the zipper. Okay, it's cold. It's supposed to snow, and we're supposed to almost have a snow day here in Vancouver. So, they're still going. Oh, the cats. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about some double figure eights with 2 stabs or 2 lightsabers because, hi, Chuck, because we do have friends of ours, Amira and Kurt, have been putting out challenges together on Instagram. So if you want to see that and jump into that, follow my Instagram page or the Freestyle staff Freestyle page. Oh my gosh, the Freestyle staff Instagram page. This is why I can't read comments and talk at the same time. Okay, so there's been an add-on challenge and other fun things. And so I wanted to talk about double figure eights today, as well as some Obiani, because I've been seeing some weird stuff happening on the internet with Obianis, and I want to clear up some things. And then at the end, I'm going to do a monster roll rundown tutorial, also called a matrix, that is an advanced skill. But one of my mutuals on TikTok asked me for some help. So I'm gonna record that while we're here. And it's just fun to watch. And you could totally try it out. What would happen if you tried something that's way too difficult for you? Probably nothing. The world won't explode. So we're good with that. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna move this a bit closer. I'm gonna move my chair out of the way. Put it somewhere. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna start with the staff. We're actually gonna start with 2 stabs. Actually, we've got a few more. Chinese box, hello. Mr. T says, the most important question for an Albertan, Flames or Oilers? I have to go with Oilers, even though I like Calgary better than Edmonton as a city. Oilers because back in the day when I was young, my dad was an Oilers fan, and I went and watched Oilers games when Wayne Gretzky still played for them. So back in the 80s, I was watching Oilers games. So I'll always go with Oilers over Flames. I know, fight me about it. Okay, so we're going to start with a stick, then we're going to move to a saber, and then we're going to come back to a stick at the end. I don't think I need this. It's not that cold in here. Also, I got a haircut, if you can't tell. It's a bit short. I asked for shorter, and she just went for it. And here we are. It grows fast. I'm happy about that. Excuse me. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so starting with some basics. This is what we're always going to do as a warm-up in my classes. And thanks. Hair is great. Got the thumbs up of approval. It just wasn't quite, like it just kept going. You know, when you're just sitting there and like you get to a point, you're like, oh, this looks good. And then it just kept going. Okay, so we're going to warm up today with our basic flow, which is our forward and reverse figure eights. Now, I do have a free course about it. It's linked in my bio. It's the first thing, if you ever come and take a class with me, it's the first thing you will ever learn in my classes, because this skill, this forward figure eights, swing down to reverse, up and over to forward, is the base of absolutely every staff spinning skill you will ever learn, all the way up to an advanced level, including lightsaber spinning. So this skill, if you're going to learn anything, this is a skill for you to learn, because you can easily translate that to a lightsaber. And a lot of the lightsaber spinning that I see on the internet is basically some version of basic flow. So if you learn basic flow, you're already a step up from not knowing anything. So I usually will practice it with a staff first, just because sabers get heavy and stabs are a very neutral tool. This is a wood dowel from Home Depot. Any wood dowel from a hardware store is a great staff. You don't need to spend $100 on an actual like martial arts bow. Okay, so we're starting in your right hand first. Now we want to make sure that we create a long line. So your staff or your saber is a straight line. It is not a squiggle. It's not a soft weapon. It's a straight line. It only will travel in straight lines. So that means when we're starting this combo, we want to make sure that we turn 90 degrees to the left. And when we start our figure eights and move through the combo, we're moving through it in a straight line. I'll explain more about that later. So we're just going to turn to your right side. I know, actually, I'll do it in my left because I think this looks like my right. But you're going to turn towards your right hand, put your right hand forward. You can just put your other hand somewhere in the middle, just get it out of the way. And we start with 4 figure eights. That means you go down first, up to the ceiling, and then down to the back. Dive to the front, dive to the back. And you start with big circles, and then very slowly you start condensing these into smaller circles, and then eventually what we're looking for is a straight arm that's parallel with the floor, and then that's where you're going to get the most speed out of it. The more you move your arm, the slower the skill is going to be, because you have more distance to travel. So if you want to go fast, you don't always have to go fast. Sometimes going fast is too fast. But if you want to go fast, what you're looking for is the most efficient, smallest circle possible. And that's straight arm parallel with the floor. Your arm, your wrist is doing most of the work. Notice how my arm is basically staying still. Okay? Now, you want to be able to do that in both hands. I do explain this in more detail in my free course. There's also a tutorial here on YouTube, so I'm not going to go too far into it because we could just spend a whole hour doing this, and I don't want to do that. But what we want is for you to be able to pick up your staff and just figure eight. This is forward right now. I'm going to go a bit slower so you can see it. You just want to be able to pick up your staff and figure eight without thinking about it. And if you're still like, that's totally normal. It's a good place to be, but it just shows you that you have more practice to do. And then you also want to make sure that you do it in both hands. Okay, so if you do it in the left hand, or when you do it in the left hand, you just turn and face the opposite wall. So that's your forward figure eights. And I challenge you, if you're like, I already know this. Okay, first off, beginner's mind. There is no harm in coming back to the basics and relearning things, especially when you've already learned them before, because you're actually going to take in more data. You're going to hear things that you didn't hear the first time you learned something. And also, like, the stronger your foundations of skills, the faster you're going to get to the advanced skills. Can't get to the advanced skills unless you know the beginning skills. So it's always a good idea to go back to the basics. But if you're like, yeah, but I've done this with a staff or lightsaber a million times, go find something in your house right now that you're like, can I basic flow? Can I figure eight with this? And use that. Challenge yourself. Try a new tool. See what happens if you use a spatula or you use a fork or, I don't know, whatever Swiffer you have laying in your closet. Try one of those and then try these skills. So this is our forward figure eight. So forward means, if you see my orange end here, forward means the circle is going to start down first. Okay? Now, we're also going to do that in the reverse side. So we're going to turn and face the opposite side. I'm still going to be in my right hand. I'm going to put my left leg forward. I'm doing this opposite, so I have to remember that I'm on the opposite foot. And then this time, rather than going, extending the staff away from us, we're going to bring it towards us. The shape is still the same. It's still an infinity sign. It's still a figure eight. But this time I'm going backwards. So think backwards arm stroke, backwards arm circle. Up to the ceiling, across the back, and then I scoop down to the floor. Now this bottom end, you can put your finger right on it because I have to send that to the back wall right away. Then I'm doing the same thing at the back. Up to the ceiling, down to the floor, push away. Circle in the front, backwards arm circle. Circle in the back, backwards arm circle. Circle in the front, circle in the back. I'm hitting the wall. Circle in the back, circle in the front. Oh, I said it wrong. Circle in the front, circle in the back. Okay, and then very slowly you start to condense that circle. So I'm going to bend my elbows. So the circles are going to get smaller. And then what I'm looking for is a straight arm parallel with the floor. That's where I go the fastest. Again, the more you move your arm, the slower it's going to go because you have more distance to travel. If you want to go fast, what's the most efficient focal point you can put that spin into? You can put that circle into. Okay, then you turn around. You're going to do it on the other side because you have two hands. Most people have two working hands. Be grateful that you have two of them. Okay, so same thing. Think backwards arm stroke. So circle in the front, backwards. Circle in the back, backwards. Circle in the front. I am going fast. If you want the whole breakdown, go to my free course. It's in my bio. And then you start condensing. Eventually, move your arm to straight, having all of the movement happening in your wrist. Okay, that's where you get the fastest, most efficient spin. You're going to get, your arm's going to get really tired if you're doing this and then trying to go fast doing that. Okay. I'm like blasting through this because I've taught it so many times, but I do cover this in my online classes. I have a 6-week online class starting online in April. I do cover it in my free course. There is a tutorial on YouTube. So I'm blasting through this. But when I'm doing my figure eights, whether it's forward or reverse, I want to make sure that my staff is traveling as tight to my body as possible. Okay, so what I see a lot is there's sort of these, like, you see how I'm like half on a pattern here, half on a pattern here. It's like a little bit 45 degrees, a little bit 45 degrees. What I want is every time as your staff draws its circle, it's drawing its circle as close to your shoulder as possible. Okay, again, this is where you're going to get the fastest, most efficient figure eight because it's hugging my body. We want our staff is a single line. It's a tool. It's a rigid tool that is just a straight line. It moves in circles because you have a fixed point with your grip, but at the same time, it only travels in this direction. So the tighter you can get your staff to match your center line, you see I have the zipper today. So the tighter I can get my staff to my center line, the faster it's going to be. Okay? The wider it is and the more in these 45 sort of ambiguous angles it is, the slower and the wonkier it is, because slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If you can do it smoothly, even if you're doing it slow and it's super tight to your shoulder, it will eventually speed up, rather than this, like that's never going to speed up. Okay, so as tight to your shoulders as you can. And that just takes a little bit of time under tension. That just takes you spending time with the tool and doing the figure eights. And the same thing applies to lightsabers, is I want my saber to be traveling as close to my shoulder as possible. That's where I'm going to be able to go the fastest. Rather than if I'm doing it out here, first of all, it's really heavy, so I have to manage and stabilize my saber with my wrist. Doesn't feel good, rather than allowing it to move in its straight line. It is a straight line. It only wants to travel in straight line. So the closer you get to your center line traveling in a straight line, the faster your spinning will be with the minimal amount of effort. Okay, because you could do it and muscle it around, but like your arms are going to get tired. These lightsabers are not light. I haven't found one yet that is like light and fun to use. That's durable, that you can drop, because that's also what happens. Okay, so that's going to be your warm up. So we do that, and when you take one of my classes, that's like the first thing we do in every class, and we use it as a warm up, because what we want is for these skills to be mindless. I want to be able to do this part, the base of absolutely every single skill. I want to be able to do the base without having to think about it. So I want to be able to free up some of that hard drive space. So that just takes you, every time you pick up a staff, even if it's for a minute, just pick a number between 10 and 50. So I'm going to do 20 forward figure eights. And then I'm going to do 20 reverse figure eights. And then you do that every time. And then slowly but surely, you realize that the figure eight part, going forward and reverse and transferring between them, you can do it without thinking. And then if you can do that without thinking, imagine all the other things you can free up yourself to do, because you have the base down. Okay, so that basic flow is really, really, really important. Okay, and you can do it. Do you have any tips on footwork? I do have a lot of tips on footwork. Give me 1 second, Layla. You can do basic flow figure eights with absolutely every single tool, everything. Okay, you can do it with short sticks. You would just hold them closer to the end. You can do it with lightsabers. Bam, 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 bam. You can do it with, I don't have anything else. You can do it with like soft weapons. Like you can do it with a rope dart. You can do it with everything. And so once you get yourself to a point of proficiency with your practice, I challenge you, like I said today, I challenge you to try it with other tools, because you will learn a lot about how objects move in space, but then also you will also learn a lot about yourself, and you will actually get better by trying it with more challenging creative tools, because you're just learning more about how things move. Layla asked on TikTok about tips for footwork. So it really depends on what the skill is. Hi, JT. Who else is here? Just looking. Okay, I'm going to come back to your question, Dr. T. So Layla's asking about footwork, like any tips on footwork. And it really depends on what you're doing and what the skill is. But my philosophy on footwork is less is more. Be very efficient and very intentional about your footwork. So in the instance of basic flow, I'm going to set my feet up in an athletic stance. I'm in my right leg, or I'm in my right hand, so my right leg is forward, and I'm doing my forward figure eights. Then when I shift through, I'm just going to shift to the other side. I haven't moved my feet. I'm just pivoting my hips. So here to here. And then when I come back on the other side, I'm doing the same thing. I want to avoid adding any extra steps for a couple of reasons. One is when you start, like this skill itself is not an easy skill. It is very much a brain gym skill as much as it's a physical skill. So if you're doing the skill that requires a lot of attention and focus from your brain and your nervous system, like it is not easy to do, especially when you first start. and then you start adding all this like footwork, you're just giving your brain more data to process, and it's going to take the quality of the skill down because you haven't trained the skills into your body yet. So the more you move your feet, the harder the skill is going to feel. Okay. Second of all, when we start getting into like tossing and catching, it's sort of the same deal. If I'm tap dancing while I'm trying to catch, it's too much data for my brain, but also like my staff doesn't know where to land if I'm like all over the place. I almost tripped on the carpet. So what we want to do is maybe I do have some footwork. Maybe I have like a turn. Maybe I want to do something else. But I want to simplify that footwork to its most basic pieces and then just do that and avoid any additional tap dancing. And then also, say you're on TikTok or wherever on the internet and you're posting your videos, and I see this a lot from a lot of people who do some really great skills. I see messy footwork because I used to I grew up as a baton twirler. Like footwork was like half of your marks. So you had to have really clean feet. But I see people doing like really cool stuff, but their feet are all over the place, or I see a lot of people who spin on their heels and spin like that. And it just makes it look messy. So my suggestion to everyone, and like if you are like, I don't know what my feet are doing, like book a private lesson with me then, because I can pick it out. I can see it right away. But less is more. Be very, very intentional with your footwork and put your feet, if you have to turn, go back enough far. I cannot talk today. Back enough, far enough. I'm going to go back far enough. Oh my gosh. So say I have like turn, ba, ba, and then I want to like move through it. I'm only going to do that amount of footwork. Sorry, I have a phone call. My bank won't stop calling me like 4 times a day for like just spamming me with stuff. I just want to be really intentional with that. So if I have to do ba, 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 da, da, ba, ba, then that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to allow myself to add any extra feet, because then as soon as I start adding extra feet, it's making the staff part really complicated, and it's just making it look really messy. Okay, so decide what your feet are, stick with that. If you want to make adjustments later, then you can make adjustments later. But simple is always going to go farther than overcomplicated, every time. That's my professional opinion, as someone that has been a professional for 20 years. I saw Mr. T ask a question about weight. I'm just scrolling up. Congratulations on your ability to explain difficult things in a fun way. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, do you have a preference for weapon weight? I've been enjoying spinning with a heavy steel post. Lighter is better, 100%. I don't know. I get a sense that there's a little bit of ego from people like, whoa, look at, I have this big steel rod and I blah, 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 and I can spin it. You're going to hurt yourself. Honestly, you might be okay here and there, but when we start getting into like more difficult skills, doing things like whatever we're doing, like whatever that is, we're putting a lot of strain in our ligaments and joints. This skill requires quite a bit of like active mobility. So the heavier your tool is, the more strain you're going to put on your joints. I do not recommend it. I use wood dowels for a reason. It's because they're super light. And I'm very, very picky about which lightsabers I use, because if they're too heavy or if they have too many like doodads on them, I just refuse. I won't use them. They're too heavy. And I've done that on set as well when I've been hired to like do fancy things with swords or staves. If they hand me, like, there's been a time where they handed me like 2 long swords. That it's a 2-handed weapon, and then they're like, do a bunch of flashy shit with this. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't. Like, I'm not going to be able to do that for you, because that's going to rip my shoulders apart. So the lighter, the better for your tools. You're not proving anything to anybody by doing it with heavy tools. What about training all the fascia with heavier tools? But the problem is our fascia is like the connective tissue that connects all your like ligaments and muscles and like is all over your body. We often have little sticky spots in the fascia. And so if you haven't worked your fascia out, then you have all these little like abrasions of fascia that the heavier tool isn't necessarily going to help break down the fascia. It's just going to like cause more tightness in it because the fascia hasn't been worked out. To each their own though. Walter says, this class will be left on the channel to watch again. Yes, you can rewatch all of this on YouTube. How would I do it when I have injured my arm after practicing? Probably has something to do with not warming up correctly. And then don't use that arm until it's healed. All right. Sinclair says, how long is the staff you're using right now? I'm 5 feet tall using a 5-foot bow. You can use whatever length you want. This is 4 feet and I'm a tall 5'8", 5'9". So I am quite tall. I use 4 feet. I prefer 4 feet. If you want to use 5 feet, go for it. The general rule of thumb is for like traditional bows is like nose height or chin height up here. I find that too long. It makes me angry. I have a 5 and a 6 foot bow, and every time I'm moving around, I have to like manage the floor, and it drives me insane. So I prefer something shorter. But if you like a longer bow, go for it. The skills don't change based on the length of your tool. All of the skills I'm doing, you can do with a short stick. You can do with a long stick. It just, the shorter the stick, the lighter, the more technical you have to be. The longer staves take a little bit longer to finish their circumference for whatever we're doing. So you have a little bit more time. They might be a little bit heavier, so you have to use a little bit more muscle. So it really depends on what sort of vibe you're going for. I don't like watching XMA staff spinning that uses very light staves. I feel like it teaches you bad form. See, it doesn't matter whether you use a light staff or a heavy staff for form. Technique is technique. So you could be doing bad form with a heavy staff as much as you could be doing poor form with a light staff. But I also see a lot of things happening with the XMA crowd. But they are not asking me for my help, so I'm not going to like go in there and do anything. Just drop my glasses. Hold on. Okay. Can you quickly explain how to do a back toss? I think that's what it's called. With a skill you swing up behind your back and you toss it high in the air. We could. That's not where I wanted to go today. Back tossing is scary. I keep shortening my staff sabers. Yes. I don't like using a saber staff. A back toss like this, you mean? Oh. I don't love doing back tosses with a staff. I would prefer to use a shorter stick for here. They are quite difficult to control. But my quick rundown on a back toss is you want to be able to do, I'm going to do it with my short stick here. Quick rundown on a back toss where it's coming up from behind your back and then you toss it out in front of you like this. Okay. Basically, this release, I'm releasing behind my head. This release is an open hand release. I just posted a tutorial for it. Nobody watched it. Social media hates me right now. So basically, if you started your arm out to the side, I'm holding at the edge of my tape here towards the end of my stick. I'm swinging down and up in the middle like a J. When I come up the center and my hand reaches 45 degrees on this angle, I'm just going to open my hand. And that little swing is going to allow the staff to leave my hand and start rotating. Okay, so if you want to work on the back toss, this is a progression. You swing down and up, open, catch, and just catch in your opposite hand, palm up. That's going to be the easiest place to catch it right now. So I swing down, up in the middle, open my hand, it comes out. It should be the simplest answer possible. I see a lot of people sometimes like you're trying to thumb flip out of this. It's not that. I'm literally opening my hand. I'm literally doing here, open. And then if it's traveling way, way far away, that means you opened too soon. So you opened when your hand was at about 90 degrees. So it's going to shoot out that way. So I want to wait until my arm from my elbow to my hand is at a 45-degree angle. And then all I do is just open. And because I have started this momentum and this energy, that gives it enough rotation and energy to come out of my hand. So that is your progression into your back toss, is this open hand flip. And then when you're ready to do the back toss, you just do the same motion, but you do it behind your back. Okay. Now the hard part about this is you have to change the plane. So I'm going to do it to the side and I'm swinging up like this. Now, right now it's in my back plane. So if I leave it back there, it stays behind me because my staff is moving in this back plane. Okay. So here to here. So I'm just twisting. So I'm releasing in my right hand and then I'm turning over my left shoulder and catching it again in my right hand. So that's your like progression into the back toss. It's staying in the back plane. I'm going to show you this way again. Here to here. So notice it stays behind my back the entire time. Okay. Now, the tricky thing about tossing it higher and potentially wanting to say like do a thing under it is you have to change the plane from the back plane. It has to transfer forward into the front plane. But what is in the middle of the back plane and the front plane? It's you. It's your head. So that's what makes this skill a little bit difficult because you have to toss it high enough and put enough energy forward into it so that it gradually, very subtly sort of arcs over top of you and into this front plane. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to pop it up here and then it comes in the front. So I'm popping it up for the back and then it sort of arcs over into this plane here. So it goes up and over. That was a terrible toss. Up and over. Okay, but I'm still doing this release. It's just behind my back. I'm going to do it facing the back so you can see it a couple times. So here, so I'm just doing that. Bam. Bam. And then if I keep it in the back plane, I would still turn to it. I'm going to do it to the side so you can see that it shifts from the back plane to the front plane all by itself. And it's just about the angle that I release it on. Can I go a bit closer? Oh. So it goes from the back to the front. And it's transferring right about here. I'm not tossing it very high. So like, ooh. And I'm also not thinking about bringing it to the front plane. I'm just allowing it to go up in the air. And that sort of like brings it into the front plane. Okay. It's a very, very gentle release. I will say that. So notice that I'm not putting a lot of effort into it. I'm going to do it facing the back. Maybe I'll do it facing this side. But like, just watch how much, I am holding it quite close to the end, by the way. Watch how much I'm not putting into it. And you see how gentle I am? I'm just very gently, woof, very gently releasing it. Bah. Just this, like this is the amount of energy that I'm putting into it. Okay. So I find with this one, people try a little bit too hard and then it goes flying or it's going to smack you in the face, which we don't want. I hope that helped. Beardless Coconut says, is there a certain number of spins you want when tossing? The minimum is one revolution for pretty much all tosses across the board. Hi, Katie. Nice to see you. The minimal amount of revolution, so say for a backhand flip, the minimum we want is one. So when I release it, my orange end is on my thumb side. I catch it on my thumb side. That's not how I've done one. After one revolution, I stop counting. Do not try and count your revs. You'll never, like if I'm tossing like way up here, I can't count that shit. And when we get into like the more advanced levels, you're going to be doing things under it. So say I'm doing like a turn, maybe it's an acrobatic skill where I flip upside down. I can't count the revs on my stick, so don't worry about it. After one, you can stop counting. It's great for people who don't like math, like me. I'm just looking for it. There's a couple questions here on YouTube, but I'm just gonna skim through them. Eli says, can you act on top of doing stunts to this degree? Like rather being a stunt double, you could play John Wick lead role and go nuts with stunts and acting. I mean, yes, I can act. I take classes regularly. I have booked gigs as an actor. Acting is a completely different game from stunts. I'm actively playing it. I didn't book a single thing last year though, but that's because the industry is sort of falling apart. So it's less me, more the industry. But yes, I can act. There's so much about the film industry that is out of your control in it. Like I can't control auditions, when they come in, what I'm auditioning for. Like I just get an audition, I do it, and then I'm competing against thousands of people to book the role. And a lot of times it's not necessarily how good of an actor you are, it's what look they want. So, but yes, I can act. Livia says, can you talk about this tape on the end of your staff? I can talk about the tape on the end of my staff. So I use this as a teaching tool, but I really highly suggest that if you are practicing these skills with me, put a piece of tape on the end of your staff. Just one end, you just need one. So for example, I'm gonna go back to backhand flips. I do have a tutorial for backhand flips on YouTube. It's also in the Freestyle Staff Academy. The tape tells me when I've reached that one revolution that we were just talking about, okay? So a lot of times when you're beginning and I'm saying a minimum of one revolution and you're like, well, I don't know how to do that. I don't have any reference for that. The tape at the end of your staff will really help with that. So like I said, when it's on my thumb side and I'm doing backhand flips, by the time I release it, it does one flip in the air and then I catch it again. It's going to land back on the same side that I released it on. And then that way I know every time that I'm doing one revolution, which is for these specific drills, like say we're doing backhand flips and it's just a drill. I just want to consistently be doing one revolution. So that means that little piece of tape is going to be really helpful for me when I'm learning these skills and dialing in the timing. Because once you get the timing of one rev, you can just go. You can go forever and just keep going. You have the skills, you have the technique, and then you can start building that into whatever else you're doing. Okay, let's talk about Obiani quickly. Because I've been seeing some stuff on the internet, and then we're going to go to Matrix Monster Rolls, which is advanced. So we're going to go to a basic skill all the way to an advanced skill. Okay, Obiani. Your skill in your Obiani, the only thing you're doing is a forward wrist roll. We talked about this in the last 2 live stream classes. If you want to go back and watch those, I break it down a little bit faster. I also have a wrist roll tutorial, both, I think it's on YouTube as well. It's definitely on TikTok. It's from like August or September. Okay, so all I'm doing in that, I'm going to show you with the lightsaber because it's going to show up better. So basically, I'm creating an anchor point with my hand. The staff never moves my hand, and all my job is with this long, heavy end, is to draw a circle behind me. But I actually don't have to do any work because gravity is going to help me. So when I let the saber sort of loosen in my hand, this long saber end wants to fall down. And because I have an anchor point with my hand, it sort of swings down, but then it starts to kick back up again on its own. So keeping your thumb and your index finger attached to your staff, send the top end forward, does a circle, and then I re-grip at the top. Circle, back. And then if you had a longer tool like this staff, I just let this bottom end, my pinky end, just travel in front of my arm. The whole top end goes behind me. If you're doing your forward figure eights, you're already doing a wrist roll because the back half of your forward figure eight is your wrist roll. Okay, so that's the base of your Obiani, is that skill. But that skill is going to happen at this 12 o'clock position, okay? So you want to be able to practice your wrist roll at the side of you. You also want to be able to practice it above your head. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our bicep, I have to move my jacket out of the way. Your bicep is to your ear. So if I turn to the side, you can see that my bicep is right tight to my ear, and then that circle is happening behind my head. What I don't want to see, and what I keep seeing, is your arm is a little bit forward. So you can see that my bicep is sort of in line with my chin. And when I do my circle, what's in the way of me completing that circle? It's my face. You don't want that. So in order to avoid that feeling where you're like, whoa, which I think a lot of people are just sort of ducking and diving their own tools here, is you got to pull your bicep to your ear. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. You totally can't see it on YouTube. Okay. So starting with our Obiani, we want to make sure that we're creating the full picture of the skill. The great thing about an Obiani is that it's a very flowery skill, especially with a tool like a lightsaber, because the light traces, you see the skill for longer than the skill lasts. It's also a great skill because it changes levels. It's really tall and then it comes down. So I have a high level, I have a low level, okay? What I see a lot is people doing it down here, which is fine if that's what you're intending to do, but you're missing out on the fullness of the skill by keeping both of your loops down here. You're just sort of cheating yourself. I might do it down here because I can use this high whip of my Obiani. I will often use it in fight choreography as a deflection. So if it's a deflection and I'm fighting somebody and I have a weapon coming at me this way, sure, I'm going to do that like high whip. Like I'm going to do that high whip at sort of face level because I'm using it to deflect another weapon. However, that's not always the case when we're just doing it as a flowery aesthetic skill. And then the same thing with this low whip. I see a lot of low whips happening out here, which is putting a lot of strain on your internal rotation of your shoulder because it's sort of floating out here and you're in this sort of ambiguous, precarious place where you don't have a lot of stability in your joint there. But rather than bringing the circle to the middle of your body where I can use it to redirect myself somewhere else. I'm not going to be able to redirect my Obiani if my low whip is out here. So I want to see the different levels of the skill, but I also want to be able to use this skill to my advantage and move into other things. And that's why we want to just clean it up. So both of your loops in your Obiani want to happen on your center line. Okay, so that's one at the top, right on center. Your low whip at the back, right on center. Okay, so starting out from the side, let me take a drink. I'm sorry, there's going to be mouth sounds if you're listening on the mic. I spilled it all over my face. I'm classy like that. Okay, so you're starting out to the side. I'm going to do this on my left so it looks like something. So I'm going clockwise around the circle. Actually, let me go back to the side. I was talking about it on the side. Ignore me. Okay, so I'm going to go clockwise around the circle before anything happens. This trick is like a magic trick. It's an illusion. So I'm going 3, 6, 9, noon. At noon, my job is to get my bicep to my ear. My staff or my lightsaber is going to keep moving in the direction that I was moving my arm. So it's going to keep moving clockwise as it does the loop in the back. Right at 12 o'clock, or as close to 12 o'clock as your shoulders will allow. Okay, so I want to pull this arm back, looping at the top, bicep to the ear, and then I come down to 3. So that portion of it is called the high whip, where I go all the way around the circle, loop at noon, right on center, and then come back down to 3. And I want you to do that loop with the straightest arm possible. It may not be as easy to do when you have a longer saber and you have to manage the floor, but I want you to do your best. I want you to do your best to keep this circle as long as possible so that this loop lands on center right at the top of that circle. Okay, so swing, loop, rather than this. See how it changes when I bend my elbow? Okay, so this one, it works in certain contexts for sure. Like I said, when I'm fighting or I'm doing something else, but if we want the full essence of the Obiani or the high-low whip, we want to make sure we're doing this swing with a straight arm. Now, when we come to the back, I find a lot of people want to overdo it at the back. You don't need to. Less is more. So I'm going to bring this arm behind my back and nothing's going to happen. I'm just going to hold my arm still and just bend my elbow. That's it. Okay. I see a lot of people trying to rotate here, then go back, and then you're already over rotated at the back, and then it messes up your whole skill, which is why I think people send their low whip out to the side. It's because you're over rotating right away. So from here, as you go to the back, just bend your elbow. Do not do anything with your wrist. Just bam. Okay. And then my hand is in the middle of my back, touching my back. I want to make contact with my body. My body can help me redirect the skill if I want to. It also creates a touch point for my body so that my brain understands where my tool is in space. Okay. So from here, going straight to my back. And then all I'm doing here is dragging my knuckles while keeping my knuckles attached to my waist. So if you don't have super crazy internal rotation and you can't get it to the middle, you're just going to turn your hips. And all I'm looking for here is for my saber or my staff to be parallel with your front wall, whatever you're using as a front wall. Okay? So I have to be patient enough to travel with this tool until I find that parallel position. You don't want to start taking it out too soon because then our tool is now moving on a different plane that we didn't start with. You're going to get hit in the face if you do that. Okay, so come here, comes behind your back, drag, find this parallel position with the wall, and then all you have to do is externally rotate. It's the only direction your shoulder can go from here. So I'm going to push straight down, and then I can continue along my circle. And then I can keep going. Push down, open. Come to the back, find that connection in the middle, right on center, drag, push down. Okay, now I want to do it to the side because I want to show you what I mean about finding that front parallel wall. So I come to here, Obiani, comes behind my back, drag. Now I'm looking for this parallel position to this front wall. Then when I push down, I have to still follow that parallel line opening to that front wall. I cannot take my staff, or I can't take my saber that was moving in this parallel plane to the front wall. I'm going to do it to the side so you can see it. So it's moving in this parallel plane. I can't all of a sudden be going in this direction. See how now it's going up to the corner on this side? That is what's slowing down and making your Obiani look weird. So what you want to do is imagine, if I could move all my stuff to this wall. Imagine that you're standing in front of a wall. So if I'm also on, I'm also on YouTube, they can see my wall. So imagine I'm standing with the wall right here. My arm needs to be able to move in this tiny little space that I have between myself and the wall. So be very specific when you're coming out of your Obiani here that you go straight down and then straight up to this side, not to the corner, not to the front, straight up to the side, and then bring this arm as close to your ear as possible to start again. That's where you're going to get the fullest, smoothest flow, where your Obiani is just going to appear for you and it's going to be super easy. Okay? So what I'm seeing a lot of is cutting it off short, not going around to the back, and then coming up on an angle. Do you see the difference? So this is what I see a lot of, rather than this. Okay? This is the fullness of the skill. This is what we want. Okay? And then just make sure that you're doing it in both hands, because you can't do double Obiani if you can't do it in both hands. Okay? We'll talk about double Obiani another day, but make sure you can do your Obiani in two hands. And then just one little thing about the low whip at the back is you get to this part here. Notice I didn't say anything about lifting this top end. I'm just dragging, okay? Because that's essentially all we're doing at the back. This is a skill of illusion. It looks like it's spinning. I'm actually not doing anything, okay? But if you wanted to add a little bit more of that circle, that sort of flower and flash at the back, all I'm doing is taking this top end and lifting it 10 degrees, 15 degrees, most, okay? And then as I drag my hand, you see the tip of the blade or you see the tip of the weapon travel behind my back as I shift to the front. But it's just because my hand is moving. So if I don't move my body, I tip it up 15 degrees. You still see the flower at the back, but I'm not actually flipping my saber up. Okay, so a lot of times what happens is people get over-rotated, and then what happens is this, and then you get caught on your leg. Less is more. The illusion is that it looks like it's spinning at the back, but all I'm doing is just lifting very gently and then dragging. Lifting and dragging, lifting and dragging. And that's something that you can play with over time, but when you do it with a longer staff, and I have a longer end here, and I come up, drag, if I over-rotate this, what happens is this bottom end gets stuck behind your leg, and then you're putting all this torque on your wrist, and it's awful. And then people are like, oh, I don't know what to do, so then they stay out here. And then we get into that whole conversation where, like, you're basically just doing, like, forward figure eights, not high-low whip or obiani. So find the fullness of the skill, little bit of a lift and drag to get out of it, okay? That's my spiel on obiani. So your shoulders and your elbows are a lot closer to your body. Yes, I'm touching my body the whole time for this skill. Okay, I want to very quickly, this is for Mark on TikTok. I'm going to talk about a matrix monster roll. How long is the shorter saber? It is about the same size as my Kali stick. So my Kali stick is like 2.5, just over 2.5 feet. And the saber is like this. This is the same hilt as my long saber. It's just a shorter blade. When I got these sabers, these are like the kids' blades. So they're just like a third shorter than the long blades. I like the shorter blades better. I find they're much easier to use around, and plus it's easier to use too. It's really hard to do double saber with two long sabers. It's really difficult. Okay. I'm going to go and talk about, bye, Carlo. Thank you. I have like 10 minutes left before I have to go. I'm going to talk about monster roll matrix. So that's this skill. Okay, I can't do this with a mic on. It's this skill. Okay. So this is going to be for Mark. I can't remember his, he does lightsaber stuff. Mark does things, I think is his name. In the baton world, it's called a monster roll. It was created by a man named Alan Kramer. Stacy Singer would have been the first person to perform it back in the 80s. It's since been picked up in the flow arts community, and it's called a matrix. Both work. I call it a monster roll, but if you call it a matrix, that's cool too. Basically what it is taking the movement. So my first progression with this is neck traps. So you're taking this idea that you want your staff to be rolling on your body without your hands over a center point in your neck. So it's basically rotating around my neck this way. The monster roll, what makes it the monster roll or the matrix, is that while it's rotating around your head, you replace your head with your arm on either side. So it comes on one side, you lean over. Let me do that again. So it comes one side, you lean over, and my hand replaces my head. So my arm has to go straight up. And then I come through, my head is back. And then again, I'm going to replace my head with my hand on my other side. So these are the progressions that I use to get myself into a monster roll. I don't do them very much anymore because they hurt my back and I'm old. So the first progression is neck traps. So I'm using my shoulder and the movement of my body to push my staff around my neck in the crevices between my skin and my shirt. This is called these are called the tracks. And basically these are the tracks that your staff will roll on while you're doing the matrix or the monster roll. So this is a really good just beginner drill to start teaching your body where these pieces, like where these tracks live in your body, because we're not using our hands. So we have to get, I can't talk and do this at the same time. Like I can, but I'm like trying to make sure that I'm being thorough. We're using the neck traps to teach our body where we want the staff to move in space and where our sort of like touch points in the matrix are. So what I have said is when I'm teaching people monster or matrix rolls is your first milestone is to be able to do 20 neck traps in a row without touching. That's how you know you've built the control and the awareness and the proprioception within your body to be able to move on to the next roll. Okay. The second progression that we do is actually the back half of the monster roll. I think in the XMA world, they call it a sunrise or a sunset. Either works. I don't really have a name for it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in my left hand and I'm going to lean over. So the position we want to hit is I'm leaning over right now I'm leaning over my right leg, and then I'm going to send my opposite arm into the air. It looks very much like a, what's this one? Trikonasana warrior or something in yoga, but this is the position that we want. So I want my arm to be straight up in the air. So I'm going to practice the back half. I'm going to send it into my head. I'm going to practice the back half of the roll by shifting through the back half of the roll with my body. So I'm starting in my left hand. I'm going to stick my left, this is my right hand. I'm starting in my right hand. I'm going to stick my left arm in the air. I'm going to move my head out of the way, and then I'm going to wrap horizontally. That means on this plane, not this plane, horizontally around my arm as far as possible. And what I want when I let go, I want to let go with my center just past my shoulder. Can you see that? The center of my staff is right here. I want to send that around my shoulder, and it's going to roll around my arm and into this trap. Okay, so that's your first step. So I'm going around my arm into this trap. So if you can't do that, you're not going to be able to move on. So you're just going to get your head out of the way, very gently push the staff horizontally around my arm until it comes into this trap. Once it gets there, you're going to bend your knees. You're going to shift to the other leg as your staff travels around your neck. And that's where this neck trap comes in. So this skill, this is where it comes in, because as soon as I send this one around my arm, I'm moving into that neck trap without having touched it. So I'm going from being over my right leg, around my right arm, around my left arm, comes around, then I lower my arm, plie, that means bend your knees, as it shifts to one side, and then I'm going to put all of my weight in the opposite side. Then it has to come through this trap on the other side, again, why your neck traps are so important. And then I'm going to lift my opposite arm straight up in the air and get my head out of the way so that my staff has somewhere to roll without my head in the way. And then it's going to come under my armpit, and then I'm catching in my armpit in my left hand. Okay, so this is the back half of the monster roll. And what you want to feel is that you're moving with the staff, but it's going arm, trap, around your neck, trap, around your arm. So it has all these points that it needs to hit. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we can't neglect these neck trap positions. Okay, so it has to hit. First trap, around, second trap, around the arm, and then you catch. Ba-da-da-da. Okay, it feels really good when you do it. Ba-da-da-da. Okay, I'm gonna take a drink, and then I gotta go pretty quickly. The second progression is we're going to start from a neck trap. So I have more stick in the back. I'm going to use my shoulder to push my staff around. It's going to go around my neck. I'm going to tilt my head, get it out of the way. Again, I want a surface for it to roll on. And then as I see it come into my peripheral vision and into this trap on my left, no, into this trap on my right, I don't know the difference between my right and the left. Don't ask me. As I start seeing it come into this right track, then I'm going to start lifting my arm up into space, leaning over my opposite leg until my arm is straight up in the air, head drops, and then I wait. I wait until it rolls a 360 around this top arm into this track in the front on the right, and then I'm going to catch it as it goes around on this side on my neck. This is the hardest progression of them all because you have to wait. The secret to monster rolls and matrix rolls is you wait forever, longer than you think that you need to, because you have to stay here and wait for the staff to do all the work before you can stand up. So it looks like this. Bam, 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 and then the other side. That was terrible. Bam, 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 and then I catch it on the other side. You can tell I haven't been practicing this. Bam, 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 bam. That's the progression. Bam, 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 bam. So I'm waiting. Notice that all of my weight is here, and I'm waiting, and my head's out of the way. But it hits 1 trap, 2 trap, all the way around the arm, 3 trap, 4 trap. Okay, I'll do that one more time. Boom, boom, boom. There. Okay, so that's the first side that comes from the back of your neck. And then the second side, which comes from the front, you're going to start on the opposite shoulder. So this is my right shoulder. I have more stick in the front. I'm going to send it forward with my shoulder like this. It's going to come across. I'm going to lift my arm straight up to get it into that trap. And then again, once this arm goes up, I'm going to start leaning over. It's come into this left trap. Lean over, get my head out of the way. Wait forever and ever and ever and ever for it to go all the way around my arm. It drops into this trap in the back. I stand up, shift, catch it on the other side. So this is the second arm. So I start in the front, pushing with my shoulders, comes into my first track on the left side. As I lift my arm up, I kind of pull mine in with my arm. Then I lean over. I'm going to rotate my palm towards the back, which is going to help it go all the way around my arm, land in that track on the back side. I plie, shift through, catch it on the other side. So here, ba, 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 ba. Okay, I'm kind of cheating by pulling it, but whatever works. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, and again, I'm just waiting here. There's a little bit of movement that I'm helping, but I find a lot of people want to do big sweeping circles on either side. But again, the bigger you sweep your arm, the more surface area your staff has to cover in order to get to the point where it's spinning. So you're making it harder for yourself. So think less is more. Like I'm not moving my arm very much at all. Once I get there, I'm just waiting and I'm just looking at it here. And then once you have all those pieces, you put it all together. It's one big happy matrix monster roll family thing. So I'm going to start on one side, 1 track, 2 track, lean over, goes around my arm, drops into the front track, lean back as it comes into the next track, left track, around my arm, comes into the back of the left, and then I shift, catch it on the other side. Boom, boom. That's not bad considering I have not practiced this in like almost a year. It really hurts my back. Like my back is going to hurt tomorrow from this. So again, 1 track. Well, that's not it. It's slidey. One side to the other side and catch. And that's your monster roll. I hope that helped. Ooh, okay. I do have to get going. I'm so sorry. I have somewhere to be now. Just looking. Michelle, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. When you started doing this, What broke first, a lightsaber or a bone? I've never actually broken a bone doing this. Actually, maybe I've done like broken fingers and stuff. Just be aware if you're in the chat that there is other people here with us. And so if you're going to spam the chat, you're probably going to get your comments deleted. So please be respectful for everybody else in the chat when we're doing these lives. No spamming. Everybody's here to learn. ROC Super Pause says, in the future, I'd love any stretches you do to keep your neck, shoulders, and wrists loose. I imagine your neck gets sore. Yes. Thank you for reminding or suggesting that. I am going to get going here, but if you would like more lessons like this, please join me for these live stream classes. We're doing them every weekend right now. For the moment, we're doing them on Saturdays. You can also join my Discord. The link is in the description on YouTube. It's in my bio at the bottom of my link tree there. If you want to join the Discord, that's where I put up reminders for these lives or reminders for classes coming up. I also have an entire online academy. There's a membership you can join where you get access to everything. There's like 150 plus tutorials. There's about 200 more on the way. There's essentials courses. There's combo courses. When you're an academy member, you get a live class like this exclusively for academy members every month. Plus, there's additional practice sessions with some of my certified teachers. The next one is coming up on February 14th with Livia. She'll be there for an open practice session for Academy members. And then our next monthly live class for Academy members is February 22nd. And yeah, so that's the place to be, is join the membership. All the links are in the bio. If not, you can just join any one of the courses I have. I have most of them listed in my bio. But yeah, jump in, join the community. If you're practicing any of these skills, please tag me in them. Tag me in your stories so I can see them with @michelle.c.smith or @freestyle.staff or tag both. And yeah, I love having you here. I love teaching these classes. I do have to get going, so we're going to stop. If you have any more suggestions or questions, the Discord or our Facebook group is the place for that. So please feel free to join our Discord. I'd love to see you there. Introduce yourselves. But yeah, I have online classes coming up. So I have a 6-week session starting April 27th. If you're in Vancouver, BC, our 4-week class starts tomorrow. You can still register for that. All of those links are in my bio. You can book a private, you can do whatever, link in bio. You know how to work the internet by now. And that's gonna be it for us today. You can rewatch this entire live on YouTube. It will be like the latest video that is posted there. So if you want to catch up on anything you missed, if you've just joined in, please feel free. Thank you for being here. I love you all. And I will see you next time. Okay, bye. Oh, I'm trying to end it on two things. Okay.